A lot of people are envying the wicked out here, and I understand the appeal. I understand that there's some kind of form of, almost a form of injustice being done to you because you, as a man or a woman that is spiritually attractive, you're moving different, and yet it seems like sometimes you're just being punished for it. You're just being completely punished for doing you. You're just being punished for who you are and what you're about. And that's really not something that you need to focus on, because as a spiritually attractive person, you have to move differently no matter what anyway. You've got to move differently, because if you don't, there's going to be temptations and sin lying at your door. And if you're not operating out of the vein of wisdom, and if you're not operating out of the domain of clarity, it's going to be a sight to see for you, to see whether or not you can actually make it on the other side to be a better person. But I stopped smoking a while back. I stopped drinking a long time ago. And I was never even much of a drinker. I was never really much of a... And when I say smoking, I mean marijuana. I never did smoke cigarettes or nicotine or any of that stuff. But I really liked marijuana because I really did feel like it was healing me. I really did feel like I was being more grounded in myself by participating in it, and specifically with smoking it, and not with edibles. With edibles, it was almost like it was a psychedelic or something. But with smoking it, I could control the high a little bit more, and I don't even like calling it a high necessarily, but that is what it was. And so I stopped doing these things over 2 years ago now. Within the last 2 years, I've had like 2 glasses of wine, and even then it's like I don't get much out of it, so I just don't drink altogether really anymore. I just don't see the point. But if you're doing these things, you don't need to... I'm not telling you to stop necessarily, but I'm not telling you to continue either. I'm just giving you my experience here, and you can take it for what it is. My experience with that kind of stuff was, and the partying, I tried partying, I tried only a few times, but the times that I did, I just felt worse. I tried to go to the pizza parties and the karaoke nights. I tried to go out to the bar to drink with the friends and playing pool on a Saturday night. Who wants to stay inside when you could be outside? I found that I was more alone surrounded by people than I was alone at my house. And that's just the truth. I didn't like being around a bunch of drunk people that had no indication on where they were going and what they were doing. I didn't like being around people that didn't have any control over themselves. I didn't like being around people that didn't know which way was up and down. And to come to find out, it's not even people that are drunk that are doing that. It's like normal people. Normal people don't know which way is up and down anymore. They just don't. Normal people don't really, quote unquote, normal. They don't get it. They don't get how to live life in accordance to laws, God's laws, statutes, and commandments. And they don't really get that there's a whole life outside of what they're doing if they only have the courage to actually live such a life. And the fact that they're not, the fact that they don't want to do that, makes them all the less more attractive. Because have you ever met people that maybe in their 20s or whatever, they were looking good, they were looking physical, they were looking fit, but they were drinking and smoking and such, but they still look kind of good. And then they get to their late 20s and then their 30s, Then they get to their 40s and they look like they're 70 years old. Yeah. Well, as spiritually attractive people, if you're sober, you're physically fit, you eat healthy, you're nutritious, you stay on the righteous path, you don't commit fornication, you don't fall into temptation too much. It's almost like you age far more gracefully, in a way where it's like, I've had people tell me that they can't determine how old I am. Which is super weird, because I guess I don't necessarily think I look old, but I don't think I look 16. And people have wondered if I'm in my early 20s or if I'm in my late 30s, which I guess could be considered a compliment either way, however you look at it. But like my skin right now, and a lot of this is due to just committing to purity and committing to life and committing to staying in God's laws, statutes, and commandments. Just doing that has allowed me to be the kind of person that I am today, where I am taking care of myself, I am moving differently, I am doing these things, and you are probably too. And the best way that you can continue to go about this kind of stuff is to stay true and to live in the spirit and truth. And you live in the spirit and truth by staying in God's laws, statutes, and commandments. Look at God's laws, statutes, and commandments. They're not really that like outrageous of commandments, right? It's not really like it's too drastic of an ask. God is just basically asking you to have some self-control. And if you have self-control, you're going to go pretty far in this life. And if you don't have self-control, well, that's where things start to get a little muddy, and the waters start to get a little muddy. But if you are operating out of the domain of clarity, there's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing that can stop you. And we as godly people must take back what is ours. And that involves our youth. And I mean this spiritually, not necessarily like physically. Because our youth, as people that are godly, the likelihood of your youth being stolen from you in this economy, in this day and age, is far drastically higher than it was ever before. Maybe the only other time was in ancient times that it was this drastic of a change. And it's because we're told from such a young age to do this, to do that, to do this, to get to that. And when you get to that, then you're going to be satisfied. But then when people get to that, they're not satisfied, and they can't help but think why. They don't know why that they're not being fulfilled. And it's like, well, it's because you're not actually doing what's right for your soul. You're not actually following for what's right for your soul. Well, how do you know it's right for your soul? You've got to move the way that you want to move. You've got to move the way that you're destined to move. Well, what exactly does that mean? It means if you actually went through and followed through with everything that you're actually interested in, and you really went for it, you actually really went for that which you're interested in, and whatever kind of came up along the way, you were able to decipher and you were able to make the best of. That's your destiny right there. And in a way, we can create it, but in also another way, it's predestined for us. Okay, God has already predestined our ventures. And there's something particularly, I would say, serendipitous about that, because it's very encouraging, and at the same time, it's very alluring as well. And in that alluring quality of predestiny is something that is everlasting. And that everlasting quality is what you make it to be. It is what you can really get all you can out of life. Think about like a wet sponge or a towel or something. And if you squeeze it and you squeeze it, the water comes out, right? Depending on how much you can squeeze out, depending on how strong you are, and think about this as like your potential. If you can squeeze all of that stuff out and really get the most out of your life, then you're going to be able to not only soak up everything, but also give back and give back to the universe and put that stuff out back into life itself. And what's the value in that, right? Like, why would anybody want to do that? It makes your spirit even stronger. It makes your life more meaningful. It makes your whole existence a lot more at ease, even throughout the uncomfortableness. Even when you're uncomfortable, you're still more at ease. Even when you're uncomfortable, you're still joyful. Even when you're uncomfortable, you're still fulfilled. Even when you're uncomfortable, there's this element of great spiritual satisfaction that cannot be described until the person experiences it. Like, I could tell you what that feels like, but only you would really know what that's like when you experience it. There's nothing like doing what I'm doing right now, because I'm here talking to a camera, speaking to God knows how many people, and you're listening in. And so we're all virtually coexisting in this common life together. And as a spiritually attractive person, you've got to watch out for the snakes. You've got to watch out for the people that are trying to take that away from you. You've got to watch out for the people that want to keep you back stuck in sin, that want to keep you doing things that are just wrong for your well-being altogether. So with all that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful. And until next time, peace be with you.